In this video, we'll take a look at the 5th grade standard for Operations in Algebraic Thinking number 3. This standard asks that students be able to generate two numerical patterns given a rule. And as they do this, they should be able to notice and recognize the relationships between those two patterns. And then as they do this, they should represent the information from the two patterns in a function table and then be able to place and graph the ordered pair on a coordinate plane. The big piece with this standard is that it talks about giving students the rules or the patterns. And like anything, we want to try and do this through a context whenever possible. So here we're going to use the context of a tree farm. So there's two tree farms that are next to one another, Mr. Fletcher's and Miss Tolbert's. On day 1, this is how many trees they had. On day 2, this is how many trees they had on each of their tree farms. And then on day 3, this is how many trees they had. Now, as you look at this, you begin to see a pattern. Let's take a look and see what this pattern can look like in a 5th grade class when we bring it to life.
Hey, yeah, tell me what you got here, Katie.
In Mr. Fletcher's yard, tree farm, you have one adding every day, so that shows right there. And
One what added every day?
A tree.
A tree?
Every day.
Okay.
So then you go 1, 2, and 2, 3. So then you have 6 total over here. So then the big hint is you're adding 1 over here. But then in Miss Tolbert's, you're adding 2 every day, so it goes to 2 and 4 and 6. And then you have 12 in total, so the big key over here is you're adding 2 every day. Adding 2 trees.
All right. And on what days will Mr. Fletcher and Miss Tolbert have the same number of trees?
You won't, because she's adding more than you, so she's just going to keep on adding every time you add one.
So now that we've seen the student be able to generate two numerical patterns and extend it and build it, we want to see that they can identify the relationships between the two patterns. And here in that first video, the student was able to do that. But the big piece now is taking that pattern and placing it into a function table. A function table allows students more access to recognizing the patterns that they see.
So tell me what you have here. What have you done?
So on Mr. Fletcher's tree, day 1, he has 1 tree. So as you can see on the board, it says day 1, that's 1 tree. On day 2, he has 2 trees.
Okay, gotcha.
And then you keep doing that, which means he's getting 1 tree and 1 new tree each day.
Getting 1 new tree each day. Okay, and what's Miss Tolbert's?
Miss Tolbert's, she starts off with 2 trees, and then on day 2, she has 4 trees, and it keeps doubling each day.
Each day it doubles. So let me ask this question. On what days, when will Mr. Fletcher and Miss Tolbert's tree farms have the same number of trees? What days?
Never.
Maybe not on the same day, but what days will they? We'll take a look at your pattern and see what it is.
Oh, here, see, if I kept going, if I put day 6, they will have 6. See?
So go ahead and do it. Show us.
So if I had day 6, you will have 6. And you can connect that to this right here because that also has 6.
And what do you notice about this 6 and this 3?
That they're both, that day is smaller than this day.
How much
it's
smaller?
3 times smaller.
3 times smaller?
No, 2 times smaller than 3.
Well, if you take a number, you can just
Cut it in half.
cut it in half. Nice. Okay. Beautiful. So let me ask you this question. Well, Mr. Fletcher, what do you notice about, actually, let's ask this question. What's another day that they'll have the same, just with the numbers that you have there?
Day 2.
Make a connection for us.
Day 2 for Mr. Fletcher, I'll have the same amount. Day 1
Okay.
for Ms. Tolbert.
And then is there any more that you can see in your table?
Day 4,
Okay.
go to day 2.
And what's another pattern? Do you see another pattern coming out here?
So, however days Mr. Fletcher has for here,
Yeah.
that's how many trees Ms. Tolbert has.
So how many days? So I noticed that Miss Tolbert never has 1. What's another number that Miss Tolbert never has?
She also never has 3,
What's another number?
5.
What do you notice about all that? 1, 3, and 5.
Those are odd numbers.
So what generalization can you make? What's a rule you can make?
I could say that Ms. Tolbert has only even numbers instead of odd numbers.
Nice. All right. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
And now that students have created a function table, you could see here that the student has recognized a lot of relationships between those two patterns. And that's what this standard is really about. It's getting students to recognize the patterns and relationships between numbers. And then to close out this lesson, we ask the students to take their ordered pair that they created through their function table and place it in an online graphing calculator. They're using Desmos.
I see that you've plotted these points here. What point is this right here?
That's 3, 3.
And what table is that? Is that, and so when you look at this, it's 3, 3?
It's this table right here.
It's on that table? So is that Mr. Fletcher's or Miss Tolbert's?
That is Mr. Fletcher's.
That's Mr. Fletcher. And if you were just to look at this, how can you tell which one's Mr. Fletcher's and which one's Miss Tolbert's just by looking at that? Looking at your plot, the points that you plotted.
Because it says right, that's green and that's black.
Okay.
So,
And what do you notice about Mr. Fletcher's line and Miss Tolbert's line?
Mr. Fletcher's goes out by 1 because on his tree farm, one tree grows a day.
One tree grows a day. And so if I asked you which line is steeper, like which dots, when you connect those dots, if you were, which one is steeper, Mr. Fletcher's or Miss Tolbert's? Why Miss Tolbert's?
Pretty much going straight down.
It's pretty much going straight down, isn't
much.
it? Pretty much. And Mr. Fletcher's, it's not as steep, it's a little bit what? A little bit more tilted, a little bit more slanted? Awesome job, nice.
So as you can see, there's a whole lot taking place in this standard. And one of the good things to know is that students have had lots of opportunity to explore both arithmetic and geometric patterns in 3rd and 4th grade before they get to us in 5th grade. So now that we understand where this standard and what this standard looks like in a 5th grade classroom, where does this thinking go? Well, this operations and algebraic thinking standard that we've been tackling here, it lays a huge foundational piece of understanding that students will need as they begin to tackle proportional reasoning, functions, and equations and expressions in the middle school. So how can we give students lots of opportunity to explore, generate, and analyze these geometric patterns? Well, Visual Patterns is an excellent resource where we can go ahead and expose students to these different growing patterns. But something to take into mind as we work through this standard. Even though students can see this as some kind of arithmetic sequence, it becomes really important that we allow students an opportunity to build these patterns using manipulatives. When we allow students to build these patterns using manipulatives, well, we can begin to see that not every student will see the pattern growing the same way. Some students will identify different constant, and some will identify different variables. But here we can see that both expressions are actually equivalent. There's a whole lot of understanding taking place in this standard. Let's make sure that we take our time and really give our students the foundational understanding that they need.